So when we're talking about, the technology is changing very rapidly, right? Obviously, everything, the users, the providers of communication, particularly the providers of communication, need to be adapted the new technology.
Yes.
So do we have refresher courses or something like that for in-service people?
Yes. Uh, when you start with a YO course, which is common to everybody. Then it is mandatory for signals people to be at least a BTech. Anybody who's joined as a technical graduate is already a BTech in telecommunications or computers or electronics. Whereas everybody else does a 3 years degree course, which we call Signal Officer Degree Engineering, SODE in short. Right? Parallelly, so you give this course syllabi is refreshed every 2 years or so. So as a result, the current technology is actually being imparted to them, right? Now it is like I did my in 87 and retired in 2018. So in between, what happened? The technology has taken quantum jump in that, right? So while that makes a foundation and base, then there's people who do MTech selected. If you're selected for MTech, there's a selection process and a competition. You do MTech, right? There are other courses which is there. So the technical graduates do something GEEO course, which is actually a refresher course for them to reorient themselves with the technology which is used in military communications, right? And which is military equipment which is there. So they do a refresher course which is there. After this, when you're selected for a particular stream, so you do that course. Like if you are there for EW, you'll go for an EW course, electronic warfare course and MCT. Then there are some SOBJ courses. There are other courses which you do that, right? Then there's a company commander's course and a regimental commander's course, which primarily is actually giving you an insight into a little communication, but also your communication philosophies, strategies, procedures, and the doctrinal part of it. So by then, when you've done these two odd courses, the basis is quite enough. So it is important to be self-taught also. That today there's so much of you can be self-taught. So that is how it is there. And then they have other discussions, and there are a lot of seminars and courses which is held at the formation levels, which is there just to bring you up to date to the technology. So remember the basic still remain the same. Absolutely. Whether it is in weaponry or whether it is in this, right? It's just the advancements because of the enhanced computing power and the miniaturization and the storage that the digital battlefield is taking a different shape and change.
So I see that you have specialized in electronic warfare, done some EW software development course in Hungary, and thereafter you've gone on to do an AI PG in AI from Houston University. So can you just run through these, the kind of opportunities that a person has in service to upgrade, to specialize in this, and with some other examples like that from your life?
Yeah. Okay. We have something called a military service MS branch, which is responsible for the officers' career progression. So they are maintaining a record of what is your aptitude, what is the exposure that you have got, and what is there. So after having done my MTech in computer science from there was a course which came up in Hungary. So they found me meeting for each course, there's a criteria and the QR laid out. So when a group of officers who met this criteria, there were about 10 or 12 of them, and you had an interview selection, and the best 5 were taken to undergo this course, right? Now, why 5? Because that is how they found that 5 was good enough to do a software maintenance and development of the then EW system which was coming up. So you had programming and that which is there, right? So they taught you everything. You learned a lot on how the configuration is there. And since having learned the software, you knew exactly how everything was working. Where you give a command, what was happening inside, right? So this is how you get selected. Then because I had done the EW course, you had to give an undertaking that with this EW course, I will not do any other long course for 2 years. So as a result, the staff course, which is very important. I became overage because knowing fully well that you have to make a choice. So my choice was electronic warfare, right? So knowing fully well that I may not be local, otherwise I would have dropped out. If you're so keen on to do the staff course. So that is how I did this, right? Then it came to subsequently after having command, and so I remained in EW for some time. They exploited my training and the money which was spent in training me. After all, it all costs money. They employed it in development, giving inputs for the QRs of next system which was coming up. Use my expertise in electronic warfare support in CICT, in J&K and Northeast, as well as communication in EW in conventional operations in the Western borders. So they exploited me. I was there and I commanded a unit in this, right? In between, of course, I did the DAC course in the Secunderabad. So all those courses you were selected for, right?
What exactly is that DAC course?
This is a diploma in advanced computing.
Okay.
So primarily, I found that after having done MTech computer science, it was not so relevant. But yes, it honed my skills into programming and things like that. So it helped in that manner. So after command, then you realize, look, the organization made a choice whether to keep me in electronic warfare or to employ me in a different field. With my EW background, and that is where you were actually dealing in interconnecting various entities and various components of electronic warfare. They found me suitable for coming as a director at that level, higher management level, as a director of CDNS, which is Communication Data Network Systems, which is actually the communication systems of the tactical TAC C3I of the Army. So test building was done. So they found me suitable with the experience. So this is where, from this, I grew into, or they employed my expertise, which is there. Of course, in between, there's a lot of self-learning you have to do. I mean, people say that we joined the army, that even infantry, that एक बार NDA पास हो गया, officer बन गए, कोई पढ़ाई नहीं है. There's a lot of studying you have to do. You may be doing study in your particular field. I mean, a lot of military history, strategic management, operational research, and the arts of warfare. All that you have to study, and it's never ending. So self-learning is very important, right? That is why you say keep mentally awake, right? So having done that, when they found that they're okay, fine. This said okay, fine. When this tenure was over, they said okay, fine. You've got enough expertise in setting up the infrastructure. Come as director ESCOM, right? So that is why the army keeps track of people who are suiting there based on the skill set which is there. And all these skill sets, there were some courses, interaction, you do some reading, you do some R&D stuff. When you're doing a project, you're dealing with the R&D stuff. So it is on the job training, something like on the job training and learn, right? So this repository of learning that you've got, you carry it with you, and it helps you. So as a result, it is there, because I remember CDNS was the basic technology in CDNS was that web browsers and this IP LANs and WANs and there, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas ESCOM that time was purely main switching was ATM based. Switches were ATM, right? And then again, ATM went off, came back into NFS when I went there. It was more of again IP and MPLS and things like that. So and DWDM and OT and optical transport networks or next generation network. So you grow, the basics remain, but you grow with that. So then there's a lot of things that higher there you have to be both technocrat. As you grow up, your nuances of technology, or the nuts and bolts and zeros or ones are not so important, but you have to have your basics correct and how to employ this technology to meet the overall objectives of your force structurings or your growth is there. So that is how, as you grow, which is there. So that is how you learn a lot.
So how this branching off into the AI?
Yeah. Okay, for quite some time, I branched. I didn't till I left service. I had good hands-on experience on protection of networks, which is defensive cyber.
Mhm.
Cyber warfare, cyber defensive, to protect your networks, and to know if the attack is there, and to contain that attack and things like that, which is through NAC and SOCs, Cyber Operation Center and Network Operation Center, things like that. But AI came after we actually this AI explosion in India uh, took on sometimes in 2016, 17, just started. By then, 18 January I had left. So, but this was something which is there. So this, with the skill sets, the knowledge which I had acquired in while in service. So I applied for this after retirement and got selected to do this PG there. There's a selection process, and you got there and did that on my own. But because that was more of continuing with my learning.
Mhm.
So that is how it is there. So that is how you do that. Because now uh, things have changed. Today there is a MTech in cyber, MTech in artificial intelligence. Right. In our time, it was not there. So while the base was made, to transforming your base from this and getting additional skill sets was quite easy. Like today, if you see, even in cyber, you have certifications. Today, there's a courses which are certifying the level of expertise. It is you do a short capsules of expertise because they take it that you're qualified enough to have the base. Now you're
Mhm.
honing and adding some more, you know, um, levels, raising your threshold level of expertise. So that is how it was there. But certainly today, if you join, uh, AI is taught in degree. That's SODE. AI is a special course in MTech. Robotics is also there. All these are there because in our time there would be MTech in optical fibers. That is optical transport network. All those were there. So as the technology changes, because look, I did MTech about 30 years back. Now, which is there, and those days, all these the laptops were there. Desktops also had
Mhm.
floppy drives. I mean, there was no,
Yes.
the memory was just about, would be in just some KBs.
KBs,
Now it
yes.
is in GBs, right? The
Mhm.
mainframe I was there, the original memory was just 4 KB. And the mainframe was housed in a huge building, there. Now the same power is there with in your mobile set. That is how the technology administration taken place. And AI is actually there. Why did AI prosper after this? The moment your computing power increased, your storage capacity increased, your processing power increased, your communications improved, that the AI was came into being and became realistic. Otherwise, AI was there in the 50s also, early 50s and there. As it came, AI actually came to birth along with the birth of computers, but never explode. There was no explosion because of these. Now today, if I look at it, your mobile can have running into memories. I can even go up to 1 terabyte memory. I can put a there if you want.
Yeah, things are changing so rapidly. Yes,
Yeah, rapidly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Major Chand, it's been a very comprehensive account of the kind of exposure that you have had and what the aspirants can have if they join the Corps of Signals. Now, coming to the other aspect of life, equally important is opportunities for games and sports. No, that is why many of the people want to join the armed forces,
Yeah.
because they just don't want to stay with the corporate life. They want to have much more fulfilling life.
Yes.
So what would you say has been the opportunities as far the game sports is concerned? You've been an accomplished sports person yourself.
If you want a good adventurous life and sports, nothing like joining the armed forces. In my case, let me give from my personal example. Okay, before I do that, if you see the Mission Olympics, I mean the first Olympic medal skeet shooting was Army, the gold medal armed forces, right? So all this boxing was always there. good boxers even now are from the armed forces, right? So Army gives you tremendous opportunities for sports, right from your, I mean, you can't even think of the facilities which are available in all the cantonments and academies, of course, they're world class. In cantonments, you've got stadiums, which with all sports facilities are there, right? So if whatever is your sports facility, it will be there. But I'll tell you two things. Like my sports, right from school, was swimming and water polo. I picked up boxing and did well in the academy. So as a result, I did individual sports. When I went to the unit, the biggest, the best place to build bohemian and camaraderie and there is in the sports field or adverse conditions.
Yes.
Adverse conditions always come in exercise or when you're doing an adventure activity like you're going for a mountaineering expedition or something. Something comes up there. Otherwise, in the sports field, actually the brotherhood comes there, the team spirit comes there, team building is there. So it is the team sports are encouraged. It is mandatory to do PT in the morning, team games during in the units, and then you can even pursue your individual sports and you can excel. There are people who are doing extremely well in squash, tennis, golf, badminton, what have you. And they're always everywhere there'll be competitions held. So there's no lack of opportunity to do sports. But you must remember that in unit there are certain tasks you perform, and there are certain skill sets that you have to develop. So you have to be very careful how you're going to balance out your sports and your military professional aspects, right? So that does take a decision you have to make. If you want to be a absolutely career military sports person, there are opportunities. Then it is at the cost of some other, the professional skills. If you want to pursue sports as a career, and after all, a sportsman's career, like there are a lot of people who join the services cricket teams and and some of them even represent Ranji Trophy, all that. It's there, but the life is still 32, 33, but then you still got around 20 more years in the service. So you have to balance out. So best is if you're doing pursuing, make sure that you excel in both. So that becomes a big challenge and demands a lot on your time and energy, which is there. But as a hobby, you can pursue anything and you can be a good sports person at the station level or at the formation level, but to excel and rise up to the national and international level, then you have to say, okay, fine, I'm going to be in giving sports and there as my first preference. And then the army.
So that's an individual's choice, but yeah, and opportunities are there.
Opportunities are there. I mean, you name sports, which is there. It's there in the armed forces.
Yes.
And you have a sports grounds which is there. So a lot of station units are building up facilities, realizing the importance of the brotherhood which builds up in the sports field, the sports ground.
Okay, so if you could give some words of advice for the aspirants, who would perhaps join the armed forces in general and Corps of Signals in particular, or any technical arm.
Okay, so I'll just say, there are certain, I'll be very generic on the guru mantras.
Yes.
I got, I think, 4 which are important. One I've always touched upon, which was that you have to be strengthen yourself mentally, physically, and morally. There's no compromise in these 3. I mean, that is the first guru mantra. Whatever happens, you may find people cribbing that my senior did not do this, senior did not do that. You have not reached that. You have not reached the stage of the senior. Don't have the inputs that the senior has, your boss, your commander, your commanding officer has to take a decision. And it's a very tough decision that he's taken. So Those are there. So if these three basic qualities are there with you, you'll always take the correct decision. And even your outlook towards your leader or your commander or your commanding officer or your superior will be absolutely correct, and you will not land up there. So that is my first guru month. Again, I've touched upon it. That gaining of knowledge is endless. I mean, the process is there. Like in my own case, after even retirement, I could not. So there, I said, there's one field which I didn't have an opportunity. There's artificial intelligence. So I paid for it there. Everything in knowledge in armed forces while you're in service is given to you, imparted to you free. There's opportunities there. It is just your will. And it is endless. I mean, it's just nothing. Today, whatever I am today, I mean, in my case, most of our cases who joined India. I joined India as maybe a good student, 11th class pass, and today I have got, I became. I did my MTech and so much exposure, and I've also been a chairman of a public sector company, telecom company, just because of these skills, opportunities, and the knowledge which the army gave while in uniform, right? In the first 5 or 6 years of your service, your task is narrow. Firstly, you are being imparted training to develop some newer skills, do well, like I did, sort everything. And the most important for you, their actually role is managing your men and equipment, right? So you must know your men, their character, and your equipment management and exploitation of that equipment. When I say equipment, it is also technology, everything, right? This is what you do in first 5 years. Thereafter, you become a unit commander and CO, and even as a posted in staff, higher staff level. That is where you are actually making sure that you can plan and strategize things of how to do a task. Tasking, decision making is where it comes up, right? It comes up as a company commander also, but that is you're fulfilling a task. You're responsible for fulfilling a task of a subordinate of the unit or subunit under you. So that is the next phase which comes up there. And then it comes to the higher echelon where you'll be doing planning and strategy and doctrine at the higher level and implementing aspects, implementing projects or wargaming concepts which will have a wider impact for the overall Indian Army. So these are the 3 stages which is there, right? So it is something up to the rank of a senior captain or a major, then, at a CO colonel, then brigadier, and above that, what I've said, right? Another is Guru Mantra is that in the armed forces, I'm sure people who are there from the forces background, there's nothing new to them. We never let down our subordinates or colleagues, right? One of the things was in India, the entire course was told to tell who had faulted. The entire course was ready to take the blame and punishment without naming the person and there. So it was actually, you can never let down your colleague, right? Neither can you ever let down your subordinates. If anything goes wrong, it is you who are responsible. The primary culprit may be somebody else. There may be your subordinate who's there but faulted. But within the team, your whole team will know exactly who was the primary cause of this thing going. But outside the unit, it is you are responsible because you're leading the team. You can't say that is theirs. So why I'm saying that is many a times I found that when I said, okay, why this has happened, the officer would call his subordinate and say, why has this happened? And that is the time I should take this officer into a quiet corner and give him a nice dressing down. I said, look, if I was to ask and hear what went wrong from your subordinate, then I don't need you, right? So that is what is important, never. And, for having the ability to stand up, you have to be professionally competent. Otherwise, you will be speculating and you'll be unsure whether you're taking the correct stand. Like if an order or something, which is whether logistics or there, tactically, the army will never take wrong decisions, or the armed forces. There's something on man management where it is there. So somebody makes a decision, if you're not professionally competent, you'll always be an element of doubt whether his decision is right or wrong. But if you're professionally competent, there's no areas of gray. You're absolutely correct. Whether the decision was correct, knowing all these aspects, or whether the decision, when I say correct, means best, or whether it was wrong. And that is where you can give. Otherwise, normally what happens is never swing and give your comments based on what the majority is saying, right? You should be standing up to an issue with your professional competence and your experience. That is the another moment. And lastly is, signals is actually a supporting arm. So like engineers supporting arm, and they're all important. The supply core or the ordnance core or the EME, they're all supporting arms or services. They're important. And you must always remember, now in signals, your supporting arm means you have to be fully aware of all the battle procedures of all the units that you're supporting, right? For example, if you are, say, CO of a armored div signal regiment, you must know the battle procedures of combat team, combat group, combat command, and even the recce support and infantry, everybody, right? So that until and unless you know the procedure, how are you going to foresee the requirement and pre-plan communications? Like I told you, your communications have to precede even the main body coming up. So if you're not well versed with their procedures and battle drills and battle procedures, you'll not do that. So whatever is there. Now, whom are you interconnecting? It's not only men you are interconnecting. Today you are interconnecting weapons also with the communications automation which is coming up. So you should be also knowing any new induction of weapon systems which is there. You must read about it. Because today, like if the Bofors have come up, Bofors have a capability of interconnecting them over a command and control network, right? So you should know the nuances of that capabilities and reach of that and deployment. Why I say the reach, like if a weapon system has got a range of say 28 kilometers, then you know to cover an area what is going to be the deployment of the batteries, groups of batteries, groups of guns. So if you have to know that, I mean, you must know the weapon system also because you're actually interconnecting them. Gone are the days that you are only interconnecting commanders or leaders, right? That is there. And related to this also, today it is a modern battlefield, which is totally digitized. You have drones, you have robot arms, you may have robotic minefield clearance and everything. I mean, today which is coming up. So you must now venture into this aspect and keep abreast with this future digital battlefield. Which is there. So that is what is there. So when you look at the last point, actually this last point is applicable for everybody. Like for example, if it is going to be supply, today if you got the unmanned drones which are coming up, the industry is already giving you drones, logistics supply. Why can't this be looked at with the quadcopters delivering supplies to forward areas instead of physical movement, and that your collection party is coming and collecting it. All those things have to be looked at in the modern digital battlefield, right? Because today your physical movement will be detected and you'll be targeted. Like for example, if your ammunition collection party is moving from here to the ammunition point, movement is there and you are a weapon is launched at you, you'll not be there. Whereas you lose men, you lose this thing, ammunition also. So that is why new techniques have to come up. So this is applicable across. But the art of warfare and methods of fighting a war in digital battlefield has to change. I'll not go into your relationship with the local, the police administration or local administration now. That you should know that there will be a heavy dose, right? Especially I'm now referring to your civil authorities and all that. That we at this point of time we'll leave it aside.
No, absolutely. I think it's been a fantastic account of life in the Corps of Signals that you have had. I would say accomplished career, and the insights from that I'm sure aspirants will find it very, very useful. And let me also thank you for sparing your valuable time. We've had a long conversation, and I'm sure the aspirants are going to benefit greatly from this. So thank you very much, and wishing you all the best in your future endeavors as well. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you. It's always pleasure, talking with you.